Hey there folks, it's 44 degrees, so I'm going to make this pretty quick, but I had to get out and do a quick video on the Parliamentary Budget Officer's report tabled earlier today at the request of Glenn Motts about the cost of compensation for the May 1st gun ban. Obviously kind of big news, however when I read it, it was pretty apparent that it's definitely an interesting read, that's for sure. Those that are unfamiliar, the Parliamentary Budget Officer is an independent auditor of sorts that answers to parliamentarians. It was really made most popular, no one really discussed it all that frequently before 2015 when Justin Trudeau raised the issue numerous times, claiming that the Parliamentary Budget Officer was being impeded from doing their job by the Conservatives at the time, and that if he won the election in 2015 that he would see to it that the Parliamentary Budget Office was more independent and accountable to parliamentarians in the manner that it's supposed to be. So it's quite interesting then that Justin Trudeau's Minister Bill Blair, when asked by the PBO to provide details of this gun confiscation buyback program thing so that they could come up with an estimate, went completely ignored. Well, not completely ignored. They did get a response. They were told by the Ministry of Public Safety that as IBM had been contracted to administrate the program, that the ministry was no longer able to discuss the costs or the plan of the program with the Parliamentary Budget Officer. So apparently because the Ministry of Public Safety is talking to IBM about administrating this program, the ministry can't talk to the Parliamentary Budget Officer about it. So that's a bit weird. Anyways, long story short, the PBO report concludes that, and this is where I'll be very specific with my language, and I hope people can appreciate that. The Parliamentary Budget Officer basically estimates that if Jacinda Ardern were to administrate Canada's gun ban such as Trudeau has tabled it, if you're still with me, would cost between $56 and $756 million. The reason for that massive difference between the two is that the government thinks there's 150,000 of these guns. The industry has provided import certificates to support 518,000 of these guns in this market. Why I say as if Jacinda Ardern was administrating it is because, having been provided with no details by the Ministry of Public Safety, the PBO is very explicit in their report that this is not to be construed as an estimate of what the program will cost, but more so an estimate of what a program like this could cost. And again, to be very clear, they mince no words about this is the cost of it. It isn't. This is the cost of compensation using the New Zealand model. Valuation figures provided somewhat haphazardly, I understand, by the government and by the industry in greater detail. But it doesn't include any business losses that might have to be settled for. It doesn't include, most importantly, the administration of the program, which, for those that remember the long gun registry, was proposed as a $2 million program that by 1998, I believe, had eclipsed $1 billion and had 600 people tracking roughly 7.88 million firearms in Canada, which accounted for roughly 50% of the guns that had been imported throughout history. So similar to that program, you know, it's not hard to see this going the same way, and the Parliamentary Budget Officer actually concludes his report by stipulating that firearms regulation programs can sort of run amok. So it's an interesting report if you want to give it a read. We have it linked over on our website. I'm sure you can just Google Parliamentary Budget Officer firearms ban or firearms cost, and it's got to be one of the top results by now. Everyone's linking to it. I think it's about a 19-page document, but it's really easy. Small columns, not a lot of words. We've also got a great article that I wrote earlier breaking down some of the greater numbers, like, for example, the government's estimate of 150,000 guns, besides that it's an oddly round number, apparently is traced back to public data from 2012, also known as the long gun registry data that they never deleted, plus 25% for all the affected firearms. So the Norinco M14s, the CZ858s, the Robinson Arms, XCRs, the Swiss Arms, all that stuff. They just went, how many were there in 2012? And then they said, well, we'll add 25%. Now, naturally, you kind of wonder where did they get 25% from, so I kind of looked through, and on the Commissioner of Firearms reports from 2012 to 2019, I can tell you that restricted firearms in this country grew by 60.9%. And given non-restricted firearms outsell restricted firearms by a pretty hefty margin, it's hard to imagine 25%. I also took a look at licenses, figuring maybe they just looked at raw license data and said, well, there's 25% more. There wasn't. There was 14% more. So it kind of feels like maybe they just pulled some numbers out of somewhere. Either way, Bill Blair has already gone on the record today, a little bit frustrated, it sounds like, by the PBO's report, saying that it's incomplete. Obviously it is. You didn't give them the data they needed to complete it, you dummy. Like, what do you expect people to do? So, obviously this isn't news to anyone in the gun community. You guys watching this, and you're seeing it on the Caliber page, you know this stuff. You've been down this road before. We've literally been down this road before. Numerous times, so many times. Why so many times? But it's very disappointing, especially, in the context of today. I have to write this stuff, and when I do my research, I kind of take a more holistic approach to stuff. Gun politics is not really a thing for me. It's more public safety politics that guns are a component of. And when you've got things like 13,000 people have died from drug poisonings under this government, it's impossible. The money laundering was at one point our third largest industry by volume of GDP. The housing crisis, and now here in BC with this heat wave that we've been going through, where it is legitimately about 44 degrees in this garage right now. A lot of people down on the coast where they don't have air conditioning like we do in the Okanagan, they've had more people die probably from this heat wave by the end of the day than will have been killed by firearms in this country. And a large part of that is because we don't have enough ambulances. Long-term care homes don't have adequate air conditioning. Buildings are shutting down. Our infrastructure is literally failing us as our government is shoveling money out the door at these feel-good, vote-getter projects. And especially when you consider this is a minority government that passed an OIC to support this ban that now is going to probably see, if the PBO says $756 million based on compensation alone, by the time you add administration, storage, all of the other ancillary costs, affiliated business losses alone, that estimate doesn't include accessories of any sort, ammunition, you name it, the businesses are stuck with. That's going to go to $2.5 billion at least. It'll take years and it'll drag on forever and it'll be in court forever. And it just seems, at a time after this, man, it doesn't seem like a good thing for government to be doing when they're managing so many of the big things so poorly. But I digress, and it's probably from the heat in here, so I'm going to go back inside my air-conditioned house. Also, too, we just sent the latest issue off. All of you guys we had a big new bunch of subscribers. I don't know if it was a forum post somewhere, and a bunch of people came over. Those of you that are new subscribers from that last issue, thank you so much for the support. It means a ton. We've turned that money around already, actually, and we've got a bunch of articles coming in for the next issue. A lot of hunting stuff, a lot of hunting gear, some cool stuff. We've got a really neat article coming up actually on a really unique, I think it'll actually be the first time in publication full history of a very unique prototype Uzi submachine gun that was actually worked on by Uzi Gal when he was here in Canada working in partnership with Canadian Arsenals. So that's what you guys are supporting when you subscribe. So I love to be able to bring those stories to you. It means the world to me to be able to put those stories down in history. We have a series of stories we're working on next year when we celebrate our 10-year anniversary to recount all of the major gun manufacturers that have closed down. Dimaco's in there, not that it closed down, but telling the story of Dimaco, for example. It's awesome to be able to have a platform, to be able to both reach out to the guys that have the stories and to be able to get them out there to you guys is awesome. So all of you subscribers that are helping us do that, from the bottom of my heart, it means the world to me, man. But now I'm going to go inside, cool down, probably eat ice cream for dinner, and if it cools down by midnight, maybe I'll even get to go for a swim in the lake, who knows. If you happen to live in a place that is maybe not quite as hot as this, go shoot a gun, have some fun, that's what summer's for, and hopefully we'll chat soon. Talk to you on the next one. Have a good one.